Test. Anybody can listen? Anybody can hear this?
Yes, this is what. Oh, this is turned off. The battery, this one's battery. Yes. Can you guys hear me? Someone say they can hear me. Someone from online. Anyone?
Yeah, we could hear you.
Okay. Thank you, George. Okay, let's get started. All right. Welcome everyone. Sorry for the odd start, but that's okay. Um, I'll start by introducing myself, then I'll talk about the schedule really quick, and then we'll move on. So my name is Tamara Camel. Those of you that don't know me, I've been doing this module. I think it's been 4 or 5 years now. We've been doing this module, and this module is about curriculum development. So the module is about how to create a Sunday school curriculum, and we're doing like the K to 12 model. But it can work for if you have a post-secondary group, if you make a curriculum for them, the same rules apply. All right. So that's what this module is about. It's a 4-week module. Okay, there's 4 weeks. We're meeting. I put out the agenda, and what I said was this week I was going to skip next week, and then I was going to do December 1st instead. So I was going to do December 1st, and then the next weeks after that. There's been a change. My son plays hockey. He's a tournament on December 1st, and the finals are during during this class. So is it okay if we move to next week instead? So we'll do this week and next week, or just on the schedule, and then we'll skip the first, and then the 2 next weeks after, then we'll be done. Is that okay? So next week we'll be here again on same time, 3 o'clock. We'll skip it December 1st. Yes, December 1st we're not going to be here. I'm also going to apologize for today. I also play hockey, and we have an early game this week, so I need to leave at around 5 o'clock to make it to my game. So I'm going to try to condense this stuff. If I don't finish it today, not a big deal. I can push it to next week's. If we get through, that's okay. So just so you know the schedule for today. Most of my games are late, but I have an early game today. So I just found out about that a couple of days ago. So we're going to be out of here by 5 o'clock right here today. All right. No. I know you're upset about that. I know it's horrible news, but it's okay. Next time. I rarely go to 6 o'clock, just so you know. I really take the 3 hours. I usually take 2.5. Or today's we'll skip the break and we'll motor through. And again, if we don't get to something, it's okay. I'll make it next week. All right? Okay. A little bit about myself before we start. Oh. Did I use this button? There we go. Yeah. Okay. This meeting is being recorded. Okay. You did? No. Oh, okay. Going to share it again? Sorry, guys. Sign in. No, I'm still on. Share. The share's gone. I've lost the ability to share. It's gone. It's in the screen in the middle? No. Oh, there, it came back. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So yeah, I said my name is Tamara Camel. I'm a principal. I'm a high school principal. That's my job. I've been a high school principal for 11 years now, but this is my 3rd year where I've actually moved to the board office. My title now is Coordinating Principal Student Success and Pathways Program. That's my title. Basically, what I do is I coordinate any before school, after school experiential learning for students. So if a student's having trouble in their regular day school, I have programs that support those kids from grade 7 to grade 12. And I'm in charge of all the co-op experiences, all the experiential learning experiences, all the apprenticeship experiences, something called SHSM, if any of you know that. I'm in charge of that as well. So my job is to create policy to support kids who are struggling and any kind of outside of classroom experiences. That's what my job is for now. I'm going to do this for another 2 or 3 years, and I'll go back to a school. I miss the school. I miss the kids. But this is my job for now. I got it. I want to change it up a little bit. So that's my job. I also teach Sunday school. I've been a Sunday school teacher for many years. 30 years, more than 30 years. I've been teaching Sunday school. Right now, I do our youth. So I'm from St. Remedios, the chapel. That's my home church. I do the youth service there. So Thursday night youth service. I also teach grade 1 to 3 on Sunday after church. And I also do the Prepare to Serve program here. I'm one of the module instructors for Prepare to Serve here. All right. So that's me in a nutshell. I want to go around your name, church, and if you serve, what your service is. All right, Kiro.
Yeah, so I'm Kiro. My main church is this church, but I serve vocation in my church.
Okay, what grades?
Preschool.
Nice, amazing. Preschool to.
Yeah, mostly preschool.
Preschool's the best. The best. I have two boys. One just went to university, but the other one took his place. And they teach pre-K to SK. Best class, most fun.
So I'm Maria. I serve at Archangel Michael and San Tekla in church, and I'm serving grade 10 for the first time this year.
Amazing, tough grade.
My name is Freddie. I'm also in the same class with Maria. Archangel Michael St. Tekla, grade 10.
Grade 10. Yeah.
My name is Vina. This is kind of my new church.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't serve any youth.
Okay. Well, welcome.
My name is Rita. This is my main church, and I serve grade 6 girls.
Grade 6 girls, amazing.
My name is Alex or Alexandra. My main church is Nativity or Spirit, and I don't serve yet.
Okay.
My name is Mary. I serve at the Pastoral and the grade 7 girls.
Okay.
My name is Natalie. This is my new church. And I serve grade 5 and 6, grade 6 girls. They used to be grade 5.
They moved up.
Grade 6 girls for Sunday school, and hymns grade 7 and 8, and that's my more challenging class.
Hymns grade 7, yeah. Hymns is tough.
They're all girls as well.
Okay, amazing. Online, I'm gonna maybe I'll call, so I want to hear from the online people as well. So I will start. Is it Caroline?
Yes, it's Caroline.
So church and service.
This church is my home church, and I don't serve yet.
Okay. Gloria? Gloria, you there? We will. Oh, hold on, I'm losing names. How about Georgina? Georgina? Georgina. Clara? You can hear me, right?
I hope so.
Claire, you there?
Hi, yes, I hear you.
Okay, good. So church and service.
So my name's Clara. I go to St. Virgin Mary and St. Athanasios, and I'm currently serving Sunday school, grade 1 specifically, and I'm hoping to serve high school through YMCP.
Amazing. Thank you. Marina? Marina, you there? Okay, next, Andrew?
Hello.
Andrew.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I'm from this church or St. Mary. Just studying away for a little while, coming back. So I'm just preparing to serve back again in high school and college or whatever. Yeah.
Please. Thank you. And Celine?
Hi, I'm Celine. I currently, Mississauga is my home church, and I currently serve grade 3 at Mississauga and grade 4 at Core.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think, did I miss anybody? I think that's it. That's the online people that I can see. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. So we haven't got the books yet, right? You're getting them today? Okay, so there's 2 books that we're using. I like sitting down, by the way, but today I'll stay seated. There's 2 books that we're using, and we'll refer them throughout There's youth ministry design and youth ministry programming. Once you get them, bring them, because we'll be referring to them throughout. Like, I'll ask you to refer to different pages here and there as we go through these. All right, so bring them with you. There are readings that are required. Of course, this week you don't have the books, you don't have the readings. But today we're going to be covering chapter 1 and 2 from youth ministry programming. All right, and we're going to be covering chapter 1 and 2 from the design book. All right, that's what our plan is today, if we get to all of it in time. All right. This needs to be, I try to set it up for it to be conversational. And so I will be expecting conversation, questions and answers. And if you don't like something that I say, I need to know, because that may be on purpose. Because we want to try to have conversation about what we're doing and what we can do about designing a good curriculum for our kids. All right. So if it's me talking the whole time, it's gonna get very boring. Right. So please help me out by being part of the conversation. Part of chapter 3 of design is in chapter 1. It goes back to it. So we're going to do a little bit of chapter 3 too, but not a lot, just so that you know what the plan is for today. All right. Okay. What does that say? Sorry, my finger is blocked here. Yes, the assessment for the course. I said all this already. There's evaluation involved. It's not like I'm not going to be asking you to hand in anything, right? But there will be work in the book that needs to be done every week, right? And then the conversations, and there will be a final in-class assessment that we'll do on the last day. All right, so we're clear of how it's going to work. Any questions so far? Okay. Why doesn't it? The readings. I'm going to change it up a little bit this time. What I've asked people to do is every week I've said if I'm doing the readings, is something that you come across that you find interesting that you didn't know, or something that we call them wow moments. Oh, I didn't know that, or that's interesting. I want people to bring it and share, and it doesn't work very well because people don't want to share. So I'm going to be assigning people every week to share something from the reading, and I'm thinking about 30 seconds to a minute. Right? I found this interesting in the readings. All right. So I'll put a schedule up. I think it's going to be 2 or 3. We only have 4 weeks, so I think there's how many of us in the class, including online? Is it 20 something? 20? I'll be assigning 3 or 4 per day per class. So there'll be more next week because next week is we're not counting this week, right? So I'll send a message out saying these people from the readings of either this week or next week's readings. 30 seconds to a minute of here's something that I found interesting from the readings or from the activity, because there's activities in the book as well you have to do. And you can, anything you learned from the activity or from the readings. All right. So we're doing that weekly. And I'll let you know by tomorrow what the schedule is for whose turn it is to say something. Got it? Cool. All right, let's start. That was our preamble. So this is on page 2 of Youth Ministry Design. And it starts with this idea of the church. I got it straight from the book. And you can see here that it talks about the church as this triad or this triangle with 3 different parts. All right. But the very first thing, because we're going to talk about lots of different things, the most important thing when it comes to service and when it comes to setting curriculum and to teaching kids, the number one thing is prayer, obviously. Right, before anything, right? We're going to talk about lots of different ways to create curriculum, to design curriculum to help students, right? But number one is praying for your kids, right? You pray for your kids by name, right? We have to pray for our kids and pray for the service and pray for our priests and pray for the church, right? Everything we do is rooted in prayer. Okay, make sense? Good. Ecclesia, right? If you look at the first thing here, it talks about community, right? So the Sunday school or the Sunday school service is a microcosm of the church, right? So it is a mini church, the Sunday school, right? And so what pertains to the church pertains to Sunday school, okay? And number one is the idea of a community of young believers called out by God to live as his people, all right? Can someone, if you have it, open up Ephesians 2:19? If you have someone pull that up. Ecclesia, just so you know, ecclesia, it's a Greek word. Sorry, it's is it a Greek word? I have it in my notes here. It is Greek, maybe it's Coptic as well, but it's a Greek word that means called out. All right, ecclesia, it's a Greek or Coptic word, means to be called out. So we're talking about our youth ministry or our Sunday school service, a group of young people who are called out to be different and to serve God. Do you have it there? Okay, go ahead.
Now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God.
Great, thank you. So again, we have kids that are being called out to be different. All right, that's the community that we're building in our Sunday school. The next one is youth ministry design must allow the opportunity for instruction, service, and worship. We'll talk about those in a bit. And can someone read Romans? I think it's 12:4-2. Sorry, wrong one. Revelation 21:9. My apologies. Yeah, Revelation 21:9.
One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife."
Thank you. So who's the Lamb's wife? The church, us. Right? We're the Lamb's wife, right? And so when we've had the character of the Sunday school kids, right? We have to instill in this idea that they are the bride of Christ. What does that mean? What does that look like? How do you behave as the bride of Christ? All right, and there's many times when Jesus speaks to the people, right? And he talks about when people are not following Christ's word, he uses the term adulterer and adulteress often when he's talking about things that we're doing against. If we're not following Christ, right? It's not that we're sinning. He's calling us adulterers and adulteresses. Why? Why does he use that term so often? Very strong terms. Why does he call us that if we're not following his way?
Infidelity to like the original home.
It's infidelity to the Lamb, to our husband. If we're not doing if we're not being the bride of Christ, if we're not doing things that line up with Christ's teachings, we are actually, if we put any other gods before him, we are adulterers and adulteresses against Christ. Right? Also very important. And then finally, can someone read this time Romans 12:4-5? In establishing a youth ministry design, we need to be mindful of God's desire to actively lead us. You have it, Natalie? We have it. Go ahead.
For as we have many members in one body, but all the members do not have the same function. So we, being many, are one body in Christ and individually members of one another.
Amazing, right? So that's the idea of the commission, right? We all have a role to play. And we're going to talk about this in a few slides, about the role that we have and the role that we want to instill in our kids. All right? So these two together all embody this triad of Christ being the center, but this is what we are trying to instill in our kids, right? Just like the church is trying to instill it in us. All right? Good. So far, so good? Okay, let's work. We want to talk about where we start. We're talking about youth ministry design, right? We want to design a curriculum. It could be for SK, it could be for grade 10, it could be for, grade 6, right? Or it could be a K-12 model. When we teach, when we create a curriculum, what do we need to do? And the first thing we need to do, and I'm going to refer to some secular books, if you don't mind. This is one of my favorites. You may have read it before. Have anyone read this book before? Have you heard of it? Phenomenal. Excellent book. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's one for youth as well. Not Christian in any way. Not Christian, but it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And it's a book that talks about the 7 habits that make you an effective person, right? If you're into any kind of leadership, just to better yourself, it's an excellent book. But it talks about the 7 habits. Be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win-win, seek first to understand, then be understood, synergy, and sharpen the saw. Sharpen the saw just means take time for yourself, right? That's what that means. He tells a story of a guy, of a carpenter who is sawing wood, right? And the saw it gets dull, and someone comes beside him and says, "Just take time to sharpen." He's like, "Can't you see I'm too busy to sharpen my saw?" Right? And you see the problem with that, right? He's being inefficient, right? So just take time for yourselves. It's very important. But what we want to talk about here for today is the idea of starting with the end in mind. All right? When you're creating a lesson, when you're creating a group of lessons, when you're creating a curriculum, you start with the end in mind. What do I want the kids to leave with? After that class, or after that set of classes, or after that year? What is the goal? Or after that 12 years of Sunday school? What do I want them to, when they leave when they walk out the door, what do I want them to leave with? This is the most, very, very important. I start with the end in mind. All right? And to do that, again, from the book, a great way is to begin with the end in mind is to develop a personal mission statement and use that statement to guide all that you do. All right? So if we're going to talk about curriculum, and let's talk about, what is a good mission statement for a Sunday school curriculum? And we'll start by talking about certain mission statements, all right? And how you build a mission statement. Okay? And by the way, these slides will be on the, I think they've already been downloaded. This one, every week these will be with you with the speaker's notes. They'll be in there for you. But a mission statement is a statement of purpose of a company, organization, or person. It's reason for existence. So why does that company exist? Is its mission statement, right? A written declaration of an organization's core purpose and focus that normally remains unchanged over time, right? So why a company, what is the purpose of a company, right? What is the purpose of an organization? What is the purpose of you, right? And when you have a mission statement, what the mission statement does is that's kind of like your filter or your flag, all right? And everything you do has to go through that filter. And if what I'm doing doesn't fulfill or help reach that filter, I don't do it, right? The mission statement keeps us focused on our goal, all right? I just pulled a few off the internet, some mission statements. So the Humane Society is about animals, yeah, right? So celebrating animals, confronting cruelty. 4 words, super easy, but that is their purpose of existence. The Humane Society's purpose for existence, all right? So that's what they're there for, right? They're not about orphans. They're not about, everything they do is purpose-driven for celebrating animals and confronting cruelty. Make sense? Easy peasy? This is my Pilgrim School Board. This is the mission statement of our board. To instill success, confidence, and hope in all students, right? So when I create professional learning for my staff, right, does it support this? Right? Is what I'm teaching going to help them instill success, confidence, and hope in students? If it's not, I shouldn't be doing it. All right? Because it doesn't fulfill our statement. Make sense? I just put a few more in here. Uber. To ignite opportunity by setting the world in motion. Sure. Right? Interesting statement. That's theirs. Smithsonian, Smithsonian Institute, they're knowledge base. They collect knowledge. That's what they do. So they increase and the increase in diffusion of knowledge. Smithsonian is basically just an information suppository, right? But they collect information and they disseminate information, right? And that's their mission. Very simple. Tesla, so the world's transition to sustainable energy. I'm not sure if that's still the reason, but that's their mission statement, right? They've waved from that a little bit, but that's okay. Red Bull, giving wings to people and ideas. Sure. Okay. I don't know. That's their mission statement. McDonald's, to make delicious food, good moments easy for everyone. Sorry, to make delicious, feel good moments easy for everyone. What does it do with food? I don't know. That's their mission statement. All right. But you can see how these do kind of link to their advertising campaigns, to what they do. McDonald's, their what's the jingle for McDonald's? I can't remember what it is anymore. I'm loving it. Right? It kind of links. Right? So these are mission statements. So now, bring that back to us in Sunday school, right? What is our mission statement. What is our mission in Sunday school? What do you think? What are some ideas? What's our goal in Sunday school? What do you think? Yes. What else? That's absolutely right. Teach us about God. What else? To make them want to be with God. Excellent. What else? Yeah. That's a good one. To provide connections between the youth and the church. Good.
Help them show life where they know is gonna end up with God.
Yeah, huge, right? To live a life where the way when they're done, they know where they're going. Excellent. What else? Anything else? These are all good.
Guide them to their spiritual path, to let them go to spiritual path during their adolescence.
Yeah, right. Like, so to give them tools, when they go out there in the world, which is a horrible place, give them, help them to the excellent. These are all good, right? We're going to talk in a couple of weeks about mission, vision, values, and goals. All right. Those are all right. Values. Mission. They're not mission statements, right? They're all right. They're absolutely right, but they're not mission statements. All right. And we'll talk about the difference later on. So, what is the purpose of youth ministry? And the answer is in the Bible. We know what the mission is. I've cheated a bit, and I know the answer already. What I think I could be wrong, but I know what the answer is. And it's what Christ told his disciples. So let's see who gets. I didn't bring. Dang it! I forgot to bring my chocolate with me. I give chocolate next time. I'll bring my little chocolates with me. Christ gave the disciples a mission before he left. What was the mission he gave them? Oh, if I only had the chocolate, right? Matthew 28:19. Right? What's it? It's so important they gave it a name. Right? What's this called? When Matthew 28:19. Someone pull it up. The Great Commission. You're on fire today. Look at you. Right? So it's called the Great Commission. And the Great Commission essentially is to make disciples. Right? I would argue that the mission of Sunday school, which is the same as the mission of the church, is to make disciples. That's our job. Our job in Sunday school is to make disciples. Right? And everything that we do has to go through that filter. Is what I'm doing going to help them make disciples? Can I play soccer with the kids and have that satisfy this? Absolutely. Right? But there needs to be a purpose. Right? Even if it's just the way that I behave while I'm playing, or if I instill into the kids values of while they're playing. Right? I can do almost anything with them, right? That will go through this. That'll go through this filter, right? Can going bowling help make disciples? Absolutely. Right? If it's about building community and it's about building fellowship, right? But just make sure that you understand why it is you're doing what you're doing, right? And fun is part of it for sure, right? But when we're doing our Bible studies, when we're doing our hymns, when we're doing our trips and our retreats and our classes and our outreach, right? Anything linked to the service, is it going through this filter? Is it going through the filter of, am I helping make disciples? And this is from pre-K up to grade 12 and beyond, right? What am I doing in pre-K to help those kids become disciples? All right, good, amazing. Another book. I think this is the last time I referred to a secular book, but there's a book called Essentialism. Radio Essentialism involves doing less but better, so you can make the highest possible contribution. Sometimes we get caught in the idea of wanting to do a million things, right? And that's okay, right? But make sure we have the person power and the ability to do those things well. We rather do less things well than many things haphazard, right? If we're going to do a retreat for the kids, right? We'll do a retreat for the kids, make sure it's set up very well, right? If doing a retreat every month is too much, right? To do it properly than doing it every month, right? Like we do retreats, we try to do retreats twice a year with our youth, right? Because we're all busy people and we want to do it right. Right? We do trips monthly. We have every week we have a lesson, but think about what you're doing, and we want to make sure that we're doing what we're doing it properly, right? Because we don't want to do things haphazardly, right? Because the other thing we have to remember is as servants, we're held to a higher standard, right? God will call us out on our service, right? And like I've fallen many times into I'm too busy and I'm preparing the last second, and it's wrong, right? I'll be the first to admit that I've done it often, but we shouldn't, right? And so what are we doing to make sure that what we're doing well to serve God and serve our kids? That's the idea of essentialism, right? Because you may get pressure to do more, right? From parents or from Abuna or from the Sunday school leader to do more and more and more. And that's okay if you can do it well. But if you can't, it's okay to say, you know what, that's too much. I want to do a little bit less than that. We don't stop serving. We never stop serving, right? Or if we are going to stop serving for whatever reason, we give ourselves the day we stop, we give ourselves a start date again, right? So when we gave birth to my child, we told, and it was to serve like Sophia at the time because we were serving here when my kids were born, and she taught me this, and she's okay, your kids are born. When are you coming back? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, no. It doesn't work that way. Give me a date that you're coming back. I think I said 9 months or something like that. And that day she called me. The day of, she wrote it down somewhere to Sonia Sophie. She called me and said, it's time, let's go. Right? So if you're going to be taking a break from service, set a date and tell somebody. Tell the guys whoever's in charge. Make sure they know the date you're coming back, because you won't come back if you take a long break. Fair? Make sense? That's a little bit of an aside. Okay. Page 2 of ministry programming. We're going to spend a lot of time on. We're going to come back to them many times. You have your books now, right? I think it's page 2. Oh, no, sorry, maybe it's actually page 3, but it's okay. The 5 practices of the church or the service. Again, service, church and service are the same, right? The 5 practices that we're going to talk about here are teaching. So this is what we, in our service, try to teach the kids, or what we have involved in a well-rounded service. Should be these 5 practices. All right? There's teaching, prayer, fellowship, worship, and mission. All right? So I'll give you a second. Just give a quick read of what they are. All right? 2 minutes. People at home, you don't have the books, but we'll discuss. It's on the screen as well, but so the people at home can read it. So as you're reading them, I want you to answer this question. Which of these 5 do you think we do well, very well, or whatever, right? And which do you think we could do better at as you're reading through them? Which ones do we do well? Which ones do we can do better at? Right? I'll give you a couple minutes and I'll ask that question. Okay. So, of those 5, teaching, prayer, fellowship, worship, and mission, I'll start by you talking to someone beside you. Turn someone beside you and talk to them, right? Which of those, and you can say all 5, we do great. That's fine. Right? But think of which ones you think we do well, which ones you think we need improvement on. Go ahead. Talk amongst yourselves and then we'll have a discussion. Yeah, maybe join that and join this side. Okay, wrap up your thoughts and then we'll discuss. All right, what do we got? Who wants to start? What do you guys over here? What do you guys talk about? I'm going to give you the mic so you can people at home can hear. Is that okay? Sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot.
So teaching and worship, we do pretty well, and mission and service might not. We don't do that well.
Mission and service.
Yeah.
Mission is the service.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, the mission service. Good. Okay. We could do better.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So you said teaching and worship we do well.
And yeah,
Okay.
and fellowship.
And fellowship. Yes. Okay. Pray. How about prayer?
Prayer is again. I said like prayer could be improved because I feel like sometimes we just look at it as a couple minutes at the beginning and a couple minutes at the end, and sometimes it's left as like an afterthought. So that could be improved.
Thank you. You guys over here.
I think we both agreed that there's a lot of emphasis put on teaching. Like as servants, like you have to prepare the lessons in the day before, and it takes up like the bulk of the Sunday school time. We also agreed that mission isn't being done a lot. Like we kind of see ourselves as the servants, but we kind of don't engage the kids in also serving. Yeah. And we're also like we like the 5 very much. Like we think we should break like Sunday school to include these 5 aspects every time instead of like I know in our class like we have like an opening session and we have a Sunday school and it ends up becoming 2 lessons, which is very overwhelming for the kids. So this is very good to think about.
So we said like similar to what they're saying, like teaching I think is already really good. And I think fellowship is good because we have a relationship with others, or we try most of the kids to have a relationship with others. And worship, I think it's okay depending on the grade you're serving. Like depending on like I know it's emphasized more in high school now. Junior high, I think we need to work on worship a little bit more. Mission, it needs to be better for both junior high and youth. And prayer, it also depends on the grade. The grade, like I think it's emphasized more, like I see it more in like high school, university then junior high and like grade 5, 6. I don't know.
Ready? Anyone from home? Or anyone online participants want to add? Sorry. Anyone online participants want to add of these 5?
I was gonna say as a community,
Yes.
I think our fellowship and our worship are very obviously everything can be improved on, but they're very well put together, I'd say, and they're emphasized well. But like personally speaking from like what I see in my classes, um, I'm only gonna speak on my teaching. I could definitely take things more seriously, and as you said, like more often than not, like we find ourselves just preparing things last minute, and as well as the prayer. Um, as someone was saying earlier, like how it's taken more seriously in the older grades. Like although they are kids and like we need to give them the benefit of the doubt that they might get bored and their attention span isn't as long or they're not as interested, we also need to do our part to not only like encourage them with our words, but also our actions. Like show them how we pray, not only in the
Mhm.
class, but also in the church, in the like when they see us outside of the classroom.
Absolutely. Yeah, you raise a great point that as servants, we're always on. Right? Remember that. We're always on. Right? And when I say always on, not just in church, I mean Friday night at home, we're on. Right? We are held to a higher standard. Right? In front of the kids, they will look at us for leadership. Right? They will look at us in church and see what we're doing. Right? If I'm in church, and I'm talking to them beside me, they will see that and they will do it. Right? And how we pray in church and how we worship, they will see. Right? It is very, very important that we lead by example. Yes, thank you, George. That's huge. Someone else from home? Anyone else want to add? Okay. We will spend some time talking about the difference between prayer and worship because they're very different, and we oftentimes confuse the two, right? But they are different things, right? Um, and I would agree. We do a good job with teaching and fellowship, absolutely, right? And that is very important, right? It is important that we teach our kids to have fellowship with us and with each other, right? It is important that one of our goals, is to have our kids have an inner circle of friends who are like-minded, right? We want to build a community so that their inner circle is hopefully other Coptic Christians, right? That being said, doesn't mean that we're safe, right? Right? Like ask any priest, right? If a mom says, "Oh, Dorian, my son is with a bunch of Coptic kids, he's okay." No, 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 right? It means nothing, right? We can't assume that because they're with a bunch of Coptic kids, they're okay. We still have to make sure that we give them the values they need to be able to step away from situations that are wrong, no matter who is around them, right? But we still want to build fellowship within, right? I'm blessed that my friends, my very close friends now, were my very close friends growing up in the church, and now my kids' friends are their kids, right? It's a huge blessing, right? Um, but it took time to find the right friends within my Coptic community as well. So keep that in mind. We do want to build fellowship. We still need to give the kids the knowledge of right and wrong and the ability to step away from something that is wrong. All right. And that is through teaching and through fellowship. Right. Teaching is huge. Why teaching? Why do we do teaching so well? Why? Yes. It's the easiest one, hands down. Right. Open up the Bible, tell a story, done. Right. And we have to do it properly. We do it properly most of the time. To keep these in mind, and we have to try to hit these as much as possible, right? Knowing that teaching will happen by itself. Teaching has to, the kids have to have an implicit understanding of the Bible, number one, right? But without the rest of it, it's not that important, right? Page 4, talks about primary level, multi-level, and special level programming. And basically, primary level programming is the idea of doing just teaching, right? Today I'm going to teach the story of the prodigal son, right? Right? Or just fellowship. Today we're going to go and go bowling or play laser tag, right? Or we're going to do what we're going to do hymns and worship. That's all we're doing, right? That's a primary, and that tends to be weekly. We do it, once a week, whatever. Multi-level programming is the idea of, can we combine, right? Can we do prayer and worship? Can we do fellowship and teaching, right? The idea, for example, of a retreat to the valley, right? A proper retreat should hit all 5 of these, if possible, right? And that's not done all the time, right? But can you hit a few of these every week, right? Can you, in your weekly lesson, do something about prayer, so the kids learn about prayer, right? Or can you do something about worship, right? And fellowship does happen organically, but we do have to have structured fellowship as well. Right? The kids come, and we know, right, that 95% of the kids come to be with each other, not to listen to us talk. Right? The fellowship kind of happens, but we do also need some structured fellowship to bring them, right? Because sometimes there's kids that don't come, right? And the idea of the fellowship is to have those kids come, but hopefully they bring a friend who isn't coming, and that friend can come, right? And when we do any kind of organized fellowship, are we telling our kids to bring someone who doesn't come, right? Are we making that priority? Brings, whatever it is that we're doing. It could be a retreat for a few days, or it could be one outing, right? Are you bringing someone who normally doesn't come? Bring them to this event, right? How powerful would it be for every child to bring someone who's on the class list that doesn't actually come, right? So keep that in mind as well, right? And then special level programming, again, doesn't happen very often. The special level programming is something like a retreat that happens, every few months. All right? Okay. Next, we talk about is your ministry fulfilling their needs, right? So we talk about this idea of all of these, right? But service has to also fulfill the individual needs of the children, right? Every child in front of you has their own life, has their own situations, has their own issues that they're dealing with, right? Is the service helping that individual child with their struggle, right? I like to use the example of when Jesus says, when you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can tell this mountain to move into the sea, right? Every child you look at, assume what is their mountain? What is it that they are struggling with, that they are trying to work with, right? Is it a horrible home life, right? Are they struggling with sexuality? Are they struggling with drugs? Are they struggling with, who knows what it is, right? What is their mountain? And what are we doing to help fulfill their needs, right? So we talk about, so there's a few different things, right? But number one is the ministry should not compete against the family, right? The ministry should not compete against the family, right? And I'm not talking about, if a child is in an abusive household, that's not what I'm talking about here. That's different, right? But we can't have us going against the family and the will of the family. The family works with us to help the children, right? Just like in school, right? It's my job as an educator to bring the family on board so we together educate the child, right? What are we doing to involve the family in Sunday school, in youth service, or in the Sunday school curriculum, right? And if a child says, "Oh, my mother, my mother's very mean," or "My mother doesn't let me go out with my friends," right? Or "My mother doesn't let me go wherever, to the school dance," simply a silly one, right? It's not my job to say your mother's wrong, right? Things like that, right? That is up to the family, right? Things like that, it's up to the family, and it's not our job to say that you're wrong, right? Because if the parents think that we're going against them, what's going to happen? What are they going to do? They're going to pull their kids right away. Go on. Right? We can't give kids the impression, or can't give families the impression that we are against the household. If we learn, and we'll talk about this later on, if we learn that there is something in the household that is actually not safe for the child, that's something different, right? And that's when you talk to Abuna and you talk to CAS and you involve, authorities. That you have to do by law, right? If you learn that a child's in an abusive situation, you have to by law contact child services. If you don't, you've actually broken the law. Be very clear, right? Don't just tell Abuna. It's not enough. We're not allowed. All right. We have to involve child services if a child is in a situation that is harmful. All right. So, but that's one situation. But the normal everyday, oh, my parents are so mean. Oh, they don't let me do anything. Oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. They care for you. They want what's best for you, right? And you can ask and probe more. But if it's just the foolish, silly things of every day, yes, our job is to say yes. That your parents have your best interests in mind. We have to keep that in mind, right? Okay. General needs of young people, right? My beliefs, my worth, my significance, my value, my commitments, my appearance, my feelings, my relationships. Are these discussed in Sunday school? Are these topics? They should be, right? You should have a topic on self-worth. Absolutely. Right? Starting in what grade? What grade do you start talking about self-worth? Any idea? Pre-K. Self-worth. Never early enough. Never early enough. Grade 5 is a good guess. Never early enough. Right? And the answer is it's never early enough for any of these. It's never early enough. Right? You might attack it differently. Right? And there might be different lessons in it. Right? A lesson on my values for a pre-K is very different than my values for a grade 10. Right? My appearance, pre-K, actually maybe that one, I don't know. Right? And my appearance is, I brought that one up because it's a special one, right? Because when we talk about my appearance, we want to be careful with what we're addressing, right? We never want to get into a situation of what you wear at church, because that's not important, right? We don't do a situation where it's about, oh, don't wear short skirts at church. Why is that a wrong conversation to have at church? Why shouldn't we be talking about that? Any idea? Maybe I'm wrong. Why shouldn't we be talking about don't wear short dresses? Don't. Why is that a wrong thing to talk about in Sunday school? As a topic in Sunday school. So a conversation, you kind of stole my thunder, but that's okay. Right?
This is
Sitting in Sunday school and saying, today we're going to talk about appropriate dress in church. Girls, don't wear mini skirts. Is that okay?
I have a guess. It could be, especially like for the younger ages, you're introducing them to something that they haven't been introduced to yet. Like you could be like you could have saved them more time from being introduced to that. Like if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's not what I was thinking. Yes.
Is that maybe the parents' place to do
It is the parents' place, first of all, right? If a girl's coming to church in a short skirt, that's fine with her family. And it's fine with her family, it's fine with us. Right? The other side of it is now we're only talking about one half of our population. Right? What about the boys? Why do the girls have a dress code? Right? Because boys can wear track pants. Is that okay? Right? I think it is. I don't know. Right? But my appearance, right? If a parent comes to you and says, I don't like what my daughter is wearing, then it's a side conversation one-on-one. Right? The problem with sitting in front of a group of kids and saying, don't wear this, the person who's wearing that, imagine what they're feeling at that point. Right? We don't single out in front of a group. Right? Things like that are things you have one-on-one conversations during either a phone call or out during outreach, right? And if the parents have, and it's if the parents have a problem with it. All right. It's not my job to judge what anyone is wearing. Never my job. Right? I can ask questions, right? If I'm prompted to. If the person themselves comes and says, "Is it okay what I'm wearing?" Then you bring it up, right? Hi, how are you? Good, right? Um, Appearance could be, when I talk about appearance, I talk about, when I do lessons about appearance, I talk about in generalities, right? If you're going to visit the King of England, what are you going to wear? Right? I'm going to the house of God. What is appropriate for me to wear? And you let them answer. Right? You know, years ago I said you shouldn't be wearing ripped clothing, but now ripped jeans are in. They're expensive. Maybe that's their best outfit, and they want to show their best outfit in church, and it's a pair of ripped jeans. How about it? Right? It's not up to me to judge. It's up to me to tell them you are going to the house of God. Right? He is our king. What do you wear in front of your king? Right? That's the conversation. Right? Self-worth is where you talk about, you know, and again, you don't bring clothing, but you talk about self-worth, right? Right? I am a child of the king. I am very valuable. Right? What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do I act if I am a child of the king? Right? And so that's these things, and these really should, when you're building a curriculum, again, Jonah and the Good Samaritan, right, are easy to talk about, and they should be talked about, and they're super important. But these are just as important, right? In a Christian lens, in a lens of I'm making disciples, right? Because if they don't learn it here, where are they going to learn it? If they don't learn it here, where are they going to learn it? Outside, on the playground, on the internet, right? You know, Friday night at the bar, right? That's where we learn this stuff, right? Right? Self-worth for boys and girls, right? I tell, like, when people find that I'm a teacher or that I'm an educator, they're like, "Aren't the kids horrible? How do you deal with the kids?" It's my first question. Aren't they horrible? Kids are awesome. The world around them is garbage, right? The world that I was in when I was their age, right? And I tell the story to my Sunday school class. If when I was in grade 9 and I wanted to see porn, I have to ride a bike to my friend's house whose dad maybe above the garage somewhere had a magazine. It didn't happen. No one did that. Right? Now it's in your back pocket. Right? And the messaging is that you are less than. Right? The messaging to our kids is that you are less than. Right? The messaging to our girls is horrible. Horrible. Right? Like the internet has brought back women's, like the progression of women many years, because now there's an expectation for women to be submissive, which we were doing better in the 80s and 90s, and it's gotten worse again, right? The things that our high school girls are being asked to do because of what's considered normalized online is horrible, and it needs to be discussed in Sunday school. If you're teaching grade 7, grade 6, and up, you need to talk about the internet, then you talk about self-worth, you need to talk about sexting. Don't send naked pictures. Say that in your Sunday school class, right? That needs to be said. It's getting a little better now. It's getting a little better. The idea of sending nude photos, it's getting a little better, but it's still not great, right? And these things need to be discussed in Sunday school. All right, good. Move on. What are your interests, right? So things, we have to ask our kids questions. We have to know our students. We have to know them and know what interests them and incorporate that stuff into our lessons. And that only happens with getting to know them, right? What are your interests? What issues are you facing? What questions do you have? What are your gifts and abilities? How can we find this stuff out? How do we find out this stuff from our kids? How do we do it?
Outreaching or like going on like small outings with them.
So outreach, small outings, 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3. That's where you find this information, right? Very difficult because it takes time, right? You find out their interests, find the issues they're facing, right? What questions you have, right? Why is it important to know gifts and abilities? Why is that important? Because we're making disciples, right? And we need to know what their interests are so we can plug them into the right interest. Not everyone's going to be a Sunday school servant, nor should they be, right? But what else can they do to serve, right? What are their interests? What can they do? Do they love soccer? Can they help coach a soccer team? Can they take the little kids and play soccer with them? Can they teach basketball? Right? What can they do? Do they play instruments? Can they play instruments in the opening session? Right? What can they do to serve? Right? What questions do you have? You can do a box, right? And or a random online thing, right? Ask a question. We won't know who you are, and you can take those and you can answer them, right? Make it relevant, right? And this only happens through asking questions, and the best way is through outreach, which again is very difficult, but we got to do it. What is the best thing about youth group and church? What things would you change if you could? What activities have you enjoyed? So again, these are questions you would ask the kids. All right. What would you prefer? What would you prefer we not do again? So what should we do more? What shouldn't we do? Right. What things would stop you? What things would stop you bringing friends? What would encourage you to invite friends? Right. How caring, supportive, and accepting is your youth ministry? What things would most help you to grow as a Christian? Right? Imagine asking these questions and what answers you would get and how that would change your service. Right? Super important. Page. I'm gonna close the door. I don't know if it's too loud. If it gets warm, we'll open it again. I'm used to being downstairs where it's freezing, by the way. I took off my shirt because I'm always cold down there. But now up here it's warm. Oh yeah, it's this one. So there's exercises that I wanted you to do. There's a couple. I should go back. Just so you know, let me go back in my. What exercise I want you to do back here? Oh, so page 6 on this. So I see we have to finish early. So there's things that I'm skipping that I should tell you about. Page 6 in youth ministry programming, right? It says try your existing programs on table below. Write the program. So choose a few programs, not all of them, right? Write the program name or description in the left-hand column and indicate which of the 5 practices it fulfills by placing a P, primary, M, multi, or S special in the appropriate box. So then we talk about the 3 different things. So for example, opening session, right? What of the 5 does that? Which of the 5 programs does that? Or sorry, which of the 5 practices does that satisfy? Right? Teaching, or not teaching, sorry, Sunday school class itself. What does it satisfy? Which of them? So you pick a few and fill that out. All right. I was going to give you time in class, but we don't have time today, so you'll do it for homework. All right. And then moving forward, page 10 in the same book. To know, to do, to be. So consider the extent of which your program reflects the needs of the young people and their families. Respond to the statement below by placing an X in the line. Make notes underneath each item in order to clarify your own thinking. So I encourage feedback from parents and listen to their concerns. Right? Yes or no? I'll read them really quick, but do them yourself later on. All right? When's the last time I asked parents for their input? It's a good question. And you can use this as a continuum. Like absolutely not, all the time, or sometimes you can put it in the middle somewhere. You decide where your X belongs there. I asked the parents for suggestions on what they would like to see in youth programming. I am well informed of developmental needs of adolescents, if you are in that age set. I ask questions to our young people in an effort to uncover their specific needs. I take into account our young people's needs when planning youth programs. I purposefully seek specific feedback from young people about the youth ministry. The area I most want to work on are, but 1 and 2, right? I'm not going to read this, by the way, this is for yourself, but I want you to do it. All right? And this gives you an idea of where you are and where you can improve. Good? Good stuff. Take a break, break's over. Good? We have half an hour. Okay. The next thing we're doing is Bible study. You know what? Do you want to take a? Do you want to just stand up for 1 minute and just stretch your legs? You should stand up for a minute, stretch your legs. I can cut some stuff out still. You've been sitting for too long. Let's say 2 minutes. 2 minutes only. Do a quick walk. Open the door. Go for a walk. Come back. That's a great question. If you're not serving, that we do well, but I want to talk about how we do a proper Bible study. All right. And what I'm going to say is this is for a Bible study, but it's also for any lesson you do. All right. Okay. So what I'm going to talk to you about now is how to prepare any lesson. Okay. All right. So the Bible. So I'll talk about the Bible to start with, right? We know, it was written over 1,500 years, right? 40 authors, one central message, right? God who created us desires a relationship with us, right? That is, that is the purpose of the Bible, right? That's the way it's the story of Christ, but that's what it's about, right? When you read the Bible, right? So when we talk about Bible study, he calls us to know Him and trust Him. All right. The purpose of it's page 20. The purpose of Bible study is on page 20. As you can see there, there's observation, explanation, revelation, and application. Right. So when we do a Bible study with our kids, all right, we're trying to satisfy these 4 tenets when we're doing a Bible study. All right. So what is the text saying? Right. What significant truths are being taught? By whom? And what is the context? Right? Because we have to talk about the stories in context. All right. I want to give an example. Right? When St. Paul talks about women not speaking in the church. You know that one, right? Which is, there's lots of discussion about, so does that mean women can't teach? Women can't. What is the context of that? So when he says that, what is the context? Any ideas? Like, why does he say that?
Wasn't the church getting a little chaotic, and the women were? There was like another sect of women who were sort of promoting. They were like seducing.
They were seducing, but there was at the time. Was it the Corinthians? Which church was it? Which I should know this. I can't remember which church it was that he was writing to, but there were women in the congregation who were actually doing witchcraft and black magic, and they were bringing that through and teaching that in the church. And that's why the statement was made that women shouldn't be speaking in the church. It's about the context of that church, right? And that's why it was said, right? And so when people say, "Oh, your church says women can't speak," no, not true, right? The majority of our teachers in Sunday school are women, right? And they do preach and they teach, right? But it has to do with the context of the time, right? What is the context? Explanation. What does the text mean? What is the culture and historical background? Right? Helps explain that one thing as well. What significance of the text for me? Right? How does the text relate to me? Super important. How does it relate to my life? All right. And then application. How can the text be applied in my life? What do I need to do in order to put it into practice? Right. So whenever I do a Bible study, I need to be able to look at those and do those pertain to my lesson. Good. Okay. I'm going to do. Sorry. It's there. I don't know. So this is slide 4. I want to do a very, very quick 5-minute Bible study with you. All right. Just to give you an example. Okay. Okay, we're good. Here we go. What are those? Pirates. Anyone not know what a pirate is? Anyone at home not know what a pirate is? Everyone knows what a pirate is? I'll explain to you, right? A pirate is essentially a robber, but on the sea. They get in a boat, right? And the pirate has their crew, and they go and they rob other boats, right? And they take gold from other boats, right? And they collect treasure, right? But they don't want the treasure on their boat. Why not? They've been robbed by other pirates. So what do they do with their treasure? They bury it. They bury it. Right? And of course, they can't put a sign saying, here's my treasure. Right? So they have a map. Right? And they know that if they go to this island and they go beside the 3 palm trees and dig a hole, they'll find their treasure. So they dig a hole, they hide their treasure, and they go back out into the ocean. Right? And they could be on the other side of the planet. But what are they thinking about? What do they have on their mind always? The treasure, right? Because that one day when they want to retire from being a pirate and they want to have a good life, they want to go back to their treasure, right? So no matter where they are, they're always thinking of this, right? Can we think of a Bible verse or a Bible story or something that was said that's similar to this? Again, I have no chocolates today. I wish I did. Yeah. Good one. Nice. Right? Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. Someone else read it. Someone else read it. Someone else read it for me. I'm turned around. I can't read it here because the people at home they're blocking my screen, so I can't read it. Can someone read for me? Ready? We're here. Sorry, Maria, go ahead.
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasures is, there your heart will be also. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life and what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature?
Cool. Amazing. Thank you. Each of these can be their own lesson. Each little paragraph can be their own lesson, right? And again, think of the lesson and think of an age group and how this will change based on the age group, based on if it's girls versus boys, if you're teaching only girls or boys, right? If it's pre-K grade 12, right? How will the lesson change, right? What will the message be? All right. And I'm going to show you a picture, and this is what I want you to take, and for every single lesson you do, keep this in mind. All right? Keep this in mind. The hook, the book, the look, and the took. Every single lesson you do should incorporate all 4 of these. Every lesson you do. We're talking about Bible study. I'm talking any lesson. right? If you're talking about self-worth, right? If you're talking about the prodigal son, if you're talking about, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Any lesson you do should have these four things, right? What's the what's the hook? What's the hook? What is that?
Gets them engaged.
Good. Yes.
Them into the conversation.
Exactly. So what was the hook in my lesson? The pirates, right? Remember something, and don't get upset by it. The kids don't want to be in the class. They don't want to be there. They're not there for you. They're there for their friends, right? What are we doing to bring them in and to get them into what we call a learning stance? What are we doing to collect their attention to us, right? It can be a story, it can be a song, it can be a video, right? It can be anything that may or may not have to do with a lesson. Sometimes it may, it could be as simple as, what did you guys do last night? Or hey, the Netflix fight. What was it? Right? Who watched the fight between that guy and Mike Tyson? Right? Just bring them in. Right? If you're getting to the lesson, it's always better. Right? But something to collect their interest from each other to you. Right? That's the hook. It's always good to tell stories about yourself. Right? Kids love hearing stories about you. However, right, you don't want to tell them a story about yourself where you big yourself up or bring yourself down. Okay? You never want to say a story of, when I was a child, I had problems with anger, but I got over it. Right? Why is that bad? Why is it bad to say that?
You're telling them it's okay to get angry.
Yeah,
Get over it.
absolutely. Right? It's that well, if he had anger problems, then I'm okay. Right? So you never want to say a story about yourself that puts you in a bad light. You also don't want to be like, guys, I read the Bible every day. Why not? Why not?
Inspired by a very high standard.
Not exactly. They should aspire to a very high standard.
They'll hold you to that standard.
They'll hold you to that standard. That's one. And what else?
You're gonna feel bad if they don't do it too.
Not what I had in mind.
For your own sake.
Yeah. Don't brag. Right? Don't big yourself up. Right? We never want to be in a situation where we're proud of something that we're doing. And and if I read the Bible every day, good for me. It's not for me to tell people. Right? Because that's the devil. Right? Be very careful about pride as a servant. Right? That was an awesome lesson. I killed it. Right? Thank God the Spirit came down and spoke for me. Right? I do nothing. I am a tool of Christ. Right? Nothing more. Right? So we don't want to give kids excuses to misbehave. Right? And we don't want them to think it's okay to brag. Right? So you can say stories about yourself, right? But they're just stories, right? When I was a kid, me and my friend got on a bike and did this, and then I fell and hurt myself, and I prayed and God helped me. Something's, like you want to say stories that are truthful, right? And if they have to do with the lesson, that's good, right? But again, you never want to be in a situation where you're telling them about something bad, right? You could talk about, if someone has an anger problem, what can they do to help? And you can ask that question and have the kids give you answers, right? So again, the hook is something that brings them in. All right. What's the book? The Bible reading, right? And again, open the Bible every single week. It doesn't matter what the lesson's about, Bible study or not, right? That may be the only time that week that child has access to the Bible. We don't know, right? Every single week, open the Bible, no matter what the topic. Super, super important, right? What's the look? The message. right? The message, exactly. From the Bible verse, or you know, what is it, what's the deeper, what I'm using the Bible verse to help me with my message, right? What is the deeper meaning of that verse to put me in my message on identity, or whatever it is, no matter what I'm talking about, right? And what's the took? When they leave the door, what are they leaving with? What was the took of my lesson? We did it very briefly. What is it? I don't know. I didn't elaborate. See if I did it right. What's the took? Yeah, it was very simple, right? And again, that was 30 seconds. I would, you would build more, and you would add things. You bring in examples, right? But and you talk about, how the value of things on earth, right? And everything here is dust, right? With a lesson like this, I have to talk about the Samaritan woman as well. I bring the Samaritan woman's story into this story of laying up treasures in heaven. Let me see if I can get you there. What's the link between the Samaritan woman's story and laying up treasures in heaven? Any idea? It's a long. What does Jesus talk to her about? What does he say to her? What's the link between the Samaritan woman and this? What does he say to her? Why is he there, first of all? What does he say to her first? What's the first thing he says to her? Give me a drink, right? And she says, you asking me a Samaritan, right? And you have no part in the wells deep, right? Then what? And give you living water, right? And he says to her, the water of this world makes you thirst again, right? What does that statement mean? We are on a planet, we are in a world that continues to tell us to have more, and we will never be satisfied, right? No matter what we have, there's always the next thing that we want, right? So you can see the idea of always wanting to incorporate these. And when you're doing a lesson, you start with what you want them to leave with, right? Again, we talked about putting the start with the end in mind, right? When you do a curriculum, the end is making disciples. When you do the lesson, the end is disciples, right? But then again, what do I want them to leave with today to help them become disciples, right? And I start with that, right? I read the lesson, if you're following a certain curriculum, I read the lesson, I read the Bible verse, and then before I write anything on paper, what do I want them to leave with? And you write that first. And then everything that you write now feeds into that. And now you have a structured lesson, so you know that when they're leaving with that message in mind, right? And you can ask them at the end, right? Every once in a while, I give my kids Post-its. And I say, write down what you learned, one sentence, right? And that gives me a gauge to know whether or not they actually took what I wanted them to take, right? You can do that once a month, once every couple of months. Don't talk to each other, write down what you learned. And you can gauge. Very simple. And it'll give you an idea. Good? I was too efficient. I'm actually done. Next week, so you have to read, we have lots of homework, but you're finishing an hour early today, so it's okay. You have to read chapter 1 and 2 and do the work in those chapters, right? And then for next week, we're doing prayer. So it's chapter 3 of program. And then we're doing chapter 3, 4, and 5 of youth ministry design. Bring paper and pen with you, because we're going to be doing youth ministry design. We're going to be doing some group work and some presenting next week. All right, read it first, and then I'm going to let you know who next week is sharing the reading. All right. Yeah. Should I text you? Okay. I need a list of all the participants. I don't know who they all are. I need a full list of all the class, and then I'll pick probably 4 or 5 to talk next week to start with, and you'll start. You'll start. Okay. Got it. So you're reading chapter 1 and 2 of both books from this week, and you're reading 3, 4, and 5 from design, and 3 from program. And then I'm going to be asking 3 or 4 of you to do 30 seconds to a minute of something that you learned from the reading, that you didn't know before, or that you found interesting, some kind of aha moment or something.
So reading 1 to 5 for design.
Yes, so yeah, it's easy. I'll make it simple. 1 through 5 of design and 1 through 3 of program. All right. And then after that, I think it's gonna be 2 per week, 2 chapters, or for like 2 per book per week. So 4 chapters a week after that. Okay. Yeah, it would have been, and we can't. It's impossible to do this. Like, the best case scenario is that you get these beforehand, and you came and have already read 1 and 2, but that doesn't happen because you don't have the books. All right. That's okay though. All right. Bring your cards next week, or give them to me this week if you're gonna use them. All right, and bring your books with you every week. All right. Thanks, guys. And next week we're not sure. We're gonna be downstairs in a special room that didn't exist before. Is my understanding. We'll find it. I'll be on time. And thanks everyone at home. Should I disconnect?